A 4 is really deep. A rating like that makes you wonder, what's the end game? How they say it? What's the angle to this? Did you really watch that? Yo, I don't think I've never said anything really about IGN. I really haven't. Today might be my first time. I'm like, no. Because because y'all saw the thumbnail, before I even get to that comment about the one of the best episodes in Invincible, I gotta call out a fault of mine. And I gotta call it out before I get it, because I believe in calling yourself out first before you call anybody else out. For years, I used to be I used to be a big defender on these companies like IGN, these other gaming and movie, TV, like companies, not really the solo like Jeremy Johns or something like that. I love Jeremy Johns. He's my favorite. I'm talking about a company like IGN, and there's other ones like it. I used to always defend them when people used to go hard and roast the heck out of them, make fun of them, criticize their horrible takes. I used to always most of the time and say, you know what? People need to calm down. Y'all doing too much. Y'all, that's their opinion. I used to do that for years. Instead of looking at the big picture. I remember someone told me the big picture a while ago, and I just did not listen. And I have to apologize. The big picture is, we just got to accept that these companies like IGN is the big topic right now, are either not watching or watching these shows, movies, or playing these games. Because when the masses are saying not just Invincible, but something is very good, why is IGN most of the time always going the opposite way? Or when the masses say something is really bad or very mid, IGN gives it an 8 or 10 or a 10 or something like that. Why does it keep happening? I used to be told for years, IGN does not have real reviewers. They're praising something like a She-Hulk, for example, to be on the good graces of Disney. I used to always be told that they're not watching whatever they're talking about or even playing fully the game before they give a review. They're not doing any of that stuff. And I was the one, I'm just putting in a short term because there's a long story with this, but in short terms, I used to most of the time defend them. Not just them, but other companies like it. That's my fault. That is really my fault. And I go front during the She-Hulk era, when they gave She-Hulk, I think it was 8. I started to get that light bulb. I'm like, wait, She-Hulk got an 8? And then all the stuff that I was told for years started to come back. And I'm like, okay, that's starting to make sense. And more as time went on, I started to lean okay, IGN has agendas for these reviews. There has to be, whether if they're praising something or talking down on something. They have agendas, or their own agenda, or, which, by the way, I'm talking about agendas that's not fair to your viewers, like giving a fair review, or they're not even watching or playing watching the show or playing the game. And then more and more in time, I slowly stopped watching them because they used to get me annoyed. Megaopolis, I believe that movie. Yeah, Megaopolis got a 9. I will never forget that. A 9, Megaopolis, bro. And I stopped slowly because I started to really agree to what everybody was telling me, and I was be like, you know what, my bad. Now, Invincible, this is what I'm really here to talk about. Invincible, the season finale of season 3, they gave it a 4. Dude, I always like to give people a chance. I had to backtrack all the hype I had with the season finale, because y'all saw my review. I gave it high praise. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10, or something like that. It basically said the whole season, not like that episode was amazing, but the whole season was really good, with a couple little things I didn't like, but outside of that, it was really good. but they gave it a 4, and there was nothing I could do to try to make that make sense. I'm like, and I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, is there anybody else that's seeing their point? And it started to come to, and then I was reading, which I'm going to share a couple things that the reviewer was saying here. Then I was reading some of this stuff. I'm like, okay, is this guy watching the same thing we're watching? Let me just share a few things. An emotionally loaded season ends on Invincible's first outright bad episode. First outright bad episode? That's how you start this review, bro. I'm like I told you, I'm starting to believe that people that they're just doing this for rage bait. There's no way, bro. First outright bad episode. I agree. And I have to apologize for those I kept defending IGN on. For those I kept disagreeing with. Y'all were right. Because that's ridiculous. And then I was looking at some of the stuff here that made this person think that it was the first outright bad episode. I'm not going to read all this right now. You can look at it up on IGN. I'm going to read this small little note here of the review. The arrival of the elderly one-armed Viltrumite warrior Conquest at a time when Mark is caught once again between killing or not sets the stage for a moral dilemma that never arrives, but whose conclusion is presented as though it were agonized over for 40 minutes. Instead, we're treated to a finale centered entirely around Conquest. Thank God. Because he made that episode, who's better suited, and Cecil, by the way, Conquest, who's better suited to playing a transitional bad guy rather than the final boss of such an emotionally loaded season. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know the whole Invincible comic, but he's not even the final boss, right? Unless you're talking about the final boss of this season, which he fit perfectly for that. You don't need much background. And actually, hold on, let me just keep reading. Hold on. Not only have we never seen Conquest prior to last week's closing moments. Let me keep reading. He's also devoid of any real ideology. Claiming to love only death and destruction makes him a useful foil to Mark. But as an exclamation point on season 3, he's a giant shoulder shrug with little connection to anything meaningful within Invincible. A shoulder shrug, bro? See, here's the thing. Every character does not need a whole season of breaking down. You know who we got as a warning of a Conquest that made it enough for all of us? Was Anissa in season 2 when she gave him a warning. And for him to show up out of nowhere was purposeful, and it worked perfectly. Shout out to Jeffrey Dean Morgan as well. But he gave one of the coldest lines in episode 7 before the season finale. Get ready for my arrival, Worm. After all that chaos that Mark just had to deal with, you have him show up, and the way he delivered. Then a shoulder shrug. Are you... I was about to say I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Conquest was anything but a shoulder shrug, in this season. The impact... Oh, by the way, I read the comic after watching that season finale. Not the whole comic. I'm talking about just that part. And they added a nice amount of dialogue for Conquest. I didn't know that. I'm so lonely. That whole line, which sends shivers down all of our spines, because that was, shout out to Jeffrey Dean Morgan. That was done perfectly. If anything, I don't know if animated voices, animation, like voice over, whatever you want to call it, I don't know if they get awards. That should get an award for that line only, about how he was so lonely. That whole segment he had talking to Mark, that should get an award. Jeffrey D. Morgan should get something for that. But it's like they're like, I don't. That's what's making me think that IGN did not watch this episode. They might have watched a couple. You know what it looked like? It looked like they watched a couple of clips that was on YouTube, and that was it. They didn't listen to the dialogue. They didn't listen to the impact Mark had, and the mindset this dude had. Fighting a child, which was Oliver, and Mark with no mercy, loving the aspect, but then you get a little background of this guy in the most psychotic way. That I Am So Lonely made that whole season. The season was already good. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments below. That whole conversation and the camera work, where the side where you see nothing but his white eye there, and then him looking down, looking terrifying like a horror movie, giving this whole spill of how nobody cares about Conquest, but he's a shoulder shrug. Then to look at him and say, after all that he just said, take it to your grave. Dude, that whole part. And it was other parts too, where he's sitting up there telling Mark after Eve, spoiler alert, after what happened with Eve, now's the right time. Now, his presence brought a lot to not just this episode, but this season. Because if you see Cecil's reaction when Conquest showed up, Cecil was a lot of us. After everything we just saw happen in this season, we're like, we really got to deal with this now? Cecil had the best reaction ever. It was only for 30 seconds. That was one of the best reactions ever in 30 seconds. If you think of that in real life, we'd be like, bro, another thing? This dude? And then he was even real. This dude is beating the living mess out of my best superhero. What do we got? Can we get anything right now? But Conquest was a shoulder shrug. No. Conquest was a headache after you already got another headache, another brick in your head after you already have a migraine. Like, bro, this dude was a issue in the most entertaining way. An issue that had me sitting there like this about the whole episode. And he's a shoulder shrug. The word choices here. Hold on. But as an exclamation point on season 3, he's a giant shoulder shrug with little connection to anything meaningful within Invincible. So when Invincible was talking to Oliver in the hospital, and he was like, okay, I see what I got to do. I got to start killing. That when he said that was nothing meaningful. Do you think he would have said that same thing if Conquest didn't show up? I'm pretty sure it would have came across his mind, but he wouldn't have been as certain. That situation Invincible had with Eve when they was fighting Conquest, that sparked something out of him. Did you see how Mark was fighting at the end against Conquest? But Conquest is a shoulder shrug. It was nothing meaningful. We have come on, bro. Like I think, and I'm just being real. This has to be rage bait. I will acknowledge one thing that I, in a way, agree with. It was a part this person said Conquest's antics, forced Mark to put civilians in danger once again. A development our hero doesn't even acknowledge, despite it being such a potent part of his recent art. I feel that. I understand, but I gotta counter to that. Hold on. Yeah, Vilcher might big bad using Mark as a battering ram to slaughter innocent bystander. And for Mark to not acknowledge, I understand. First off, with the length of the show and everything that was going on, I don't even think Mark even had time. We did see him at Rex's funeral. And I know I understand that spot, but to be real, I believe that's going to be something that's going to be noted in season 4. To be real, I believe that's what also helped Mark to sit there and tell Oliver, okay, I gotta kill these guys. Yes, they didn't really go into it, and yeah, that was a crazy moment. It was like the situation with Omni-Man and Invincible. And for him not to acknowledge anything, I get it. But that is nowhere a reason. That is not even close of a reason to make it a 4. Anything close to a 4. We could just say that was just a mistake on the writer's part, or they did that on purpose because something's about to happen in season 4 that talks about that. I don't know. Like I said, I stay away from the comic storyline because I want to be surprised. But I've been spoiled a few things, but not enough for me to, I'm still in shock. Like, I still get surprised when I see this because I haven't really dabbled into whatever the future is for Invincible. But if that was a mistake, let's just say if that's never acknowledged in season 4, Okay, we can say that's a mistake on the writer's part to not have any sympathy for those people that died. But man, let's just be real here. There's a lot of moments in Invincible where a lot of civilians are dying. I ain't gonna front. It's sad. I ain't gonna front like that. It is sad moments. Like, dang, bro. You know. But these Viltrumites, bro, this war that Cecil's dealing with, it's a lot to think about. It's a lot to do. And I know, like, when you see the funeral for Rex, which that was hard to see. I didn't see that coming at all. You know, it's hard to look at that and not be like, okay, why are we not having these funerals for everybody else? But I don't think that's justified to... I'm going to go back to my original point. Whoever reviewer did not watch this episode or was told to rage bait, or let's be real, maybe this person is not into superhero stuff, is not into animated stuff, and no matter what this person see, it's all trash. Because a 4, it's kind of like, it'd be different if he said, 6 and 7, mid, good action, good, this and that, but it just didn't work for me. But I ain't gonna front. IGN has been very sketchy lately for me. I know for a lot of y'all saying they've been sketchy for a long time. Well, that's why I apologize, because I ignored how long it's been. But on my timeline, since I got the light bulb, IGN has been very weird, bro. Then when you hear their explanation, it's like, huh? Conquest is nowhere near a shoulder shrug. Just because they didn't talk... And to be real, I'm glad they didn't talk about Conquest a lot leading up to it. It led to that surprise. I ain't gonna front. Watching episode 7 and seeing Mark help the civilians, and he was leaning on the rock or something, I had no idea Conquest was gonna be right there. And then when he showed up and said, stand ready for my arrival, worm, I'm like, bro, are you kidding me? And I didn't know what Conquest was coming with. I had no idea. I was already hyped for Mark when he was like, and the only thing I want to do right now is hit something. Like, I was like, yes, here we go. I like that. And so I don't... It's either one of those things. They don't really watch it, or they have someone to review it who don't care about stuff like this, or they're rage baiting. I've been defending IGN way too long, and bro, to be real, I think they saw in the back of my head, I'm like, they might have to rage bait to get clicks, to get people to read their read their stuff, watch their whatever it is, because a lot of these reviewers, like, who are YouTubers, streamers, or whatever, Jeremy Johns, like, I love Jeremy Johns. That's really lately only reviewer. I watch Penguin Zero every time from time to time, but mostly I watch Jeremy Johns. He's one I can respect his opinion. You can tell he doesn't come in trying to kiss up to nobody. This is just his review. And I think because that has gotten big now, these other companies who used to be the focal point of reviews and stuff are now looking like they're trying to find something to stay relevant. And regardless of the hate they get, clicks still brings them money or whatever the case they may be. So I don't know. I apologize for defending IGN for a while. This one sent me back. This sent me back. I was like, because I saw Penguin Zero, his thumbnail, and I'm like, is that IGN giving it a 4? And then it was all over YouTube. People like 4. I'm like, okay, and I had to get my phone to look at it myself, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Then the explanation, I'm gonna read this one more time in case I missed something. Not only have we never seen Conquest prior to last week's closing moments, he's also devoid of any real ideology. Claiming to only love death and destruction makes him a useful foil to Mark. But as an exclamation point on season 3, he's a giant shoulder shrug with little connection to anything meaningful within Invincible. That just shows you didn't watch the episode. Mark's whole persona changed fighting that dude. And then what he told his brother. But what? That is meaningful. Because Omni-Man never did that for Mark. Anissa didn't do that for Mark. When Mark was fighting, Mark was with his father fighting those other 2 Viltrumites, or 3 Viltrumites, and Omni-Man was sitting there grabbing him, telling him, if you don't start fighting and fight like a Viltrumite, that didn't wake him up. Fighting this guy did. Angstrom in the way did, but that was more of he just snapped, but he never stuck to it. This dude made him change. Like he's like, okay, this has to change, or we all dead, and I'm going to do it right now. And I believe him when he looked at when he said that, I was like, oh yeah, he's coming different that next season, whenever that is. This the IGN, bro. Y'all, I hope y'all get it together over there. I always hope for people's success, but I had to call that out. That's crazy. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Y'all, and the thing is, they didn't even have to say it was a thing with IGN. In case someone asked me, did you expect them to make it a 10? No, I didn't expect that at all. A 4 is really deep, and a rating like that makes you wonder, what's the end game? How they say it? What's the angle to this? Did you really watch that? Are you just trying to get it? Like, that's what, when I hear a 4, I hear on something like this that was praised globally. Like, this was, people was apologizing to Jeffrey Dean Morgan because I didn't know this, but people in episode 7, they was criticizing Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing Conquest from that little dialogue. I thought it was amazing. I didn't know that till later. They was apologizing after as far as the season finale. They was like, yo, you made that. Like, oh my goodness, Jeffrey Dean. You know, all that stuff. So, to see all this praise, and then for one that is a known company, be like, 4. It's like, okay, what are you trying to do here? You know, so that's why. So it's not even like I used to say, it's just their opinion. No. It's more than that. It's not that this was someone's not watching, someone doesn't care, or they're just raise baiting to get views and, you know, people to, you know, however you do it when you click on their website. So that was crazy. Anyway, let me know what y'all thought in the comments below. I'll see you later.